All right, so we're going to get right into this. We're going to do something a little different starting this week. We're going to try out doing a podcast for the TGI Fantasy Football League as opposed to an email or a long text into the group chat. So this is going to be the first installment. That podcast is for covering week 7 and previewing week 8 for the 2025 season. I am your host, Spencer Jones.
I guess that makes me co-host Jackson Grant.
And we have a guest this week.
I'm this week's guest, Mitch, pronounce he and him, friend of the Mexican people and culture.
Yeah, Mitch will be joining us on this week, and he's going to be doing the power rankings segment. So that's going to be a bit of a treat for everyone. Pretty sure that'll give us a good bit of laughs. I'm excited for it. We're going to start by covering this past week. Going in order of games from top to bottom. We're going to start with my win over Henry this week as I go to 4-3. Henry goes to 2-5. Henry's roster is proving itself to be pretty boom bust. At times he looks very competitive, and then there's other times where he puts on poor performances, and I think it's proven that he's going to struggle through bye weeks and injuries with not great depth on his bench. I'm now 4-3 against Henry. The only other active member who has a winning record is Nagel, who's 1-0. Yeah, Henry is sitting at 2-5 now. He might be on the struggle bus going forward. Jackson, if you want to take the next game.
Next up, we had Andreas versus Aras. Andreas, after getting that win, is now 4-6 in the matchup against Aras, and unfortunately for Aras, he lost his second game in a week despite scoring 130 plus in both games. Some of his replacement players this week put in a big scoring effort,
including Travis Hunter going for 24 points. I think that might be his first time going above 12 all year. He's just been riding his bench.
Question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Who the fuck is Travis Hunter?
Oh my goodness.
This guy doesn't know ball.
I don't understand. How did he score 24 points and I've never heard of him?
Who is Travis Hunter is one of the greatest questions I've ever heard on a fantasy football podcast.
He's the Shohei Ohtani of football.
It's not. That can't be true. Kyrie Fairbairn is the Shohei Ohtani of football.
I'm so glad you're doing the power rankings.
Regardless, this was a big week for Andreas, who is now one game above 500 and is hoping to make the playoffs after a 3-year playoff drought. He's currently sitting at 6, so he is on track to make the playoffs.
I mean, credit to Andreas. He's played a lot of competition close this year, and it was kind of worrying looking at his stat line. Actually, we're going to get into a couple of people. There's a lot of people that are sitting right around that, like, they score well every week, but not a lot of, like, kill shot scores. But this was a huge week for Andreas. Kind of like his, like, breakout of the season. I know he had, like, 145 points earlier in the year. No, this is his first time, like, scoring high on an opponent that also scored high. There's a lot to like here, and I think Andreas might be setting himself up on the right path to get back to the playoffs. Next game going down the line is Nagel's win against Cleo. This was the highest scoring game of the week and one of the highest scoring games that we've had since 2020, which I guess for any of the newer members who maybe not have delved into the record book too much, the reason why that 2020 is a stat block and like a timestamp, most of it is that's when we finally had 12 or more members, so that scoring is a lot more with the times, I guess you can say. But yeah, Nagel 7-0 now. And this was a huge performance for him, 158, especially after Cleo needed a miracle from Jahmyr Gibbs on Monday night, and Cleo actually ended up getting it. And Nagel had Cooper Kupp throwing interceptions. Yeah, I think this kind of silences the no competition arguments for Nagel. His opponents went from scoring like an average of like 82 points a game to I think Cleo and Andreas the past 2 weeks have jumped it all the way up to like a normal amount, like somewhere in that 100 to 110 range. So yeah, Nagel's 7-0, and it's no joke. That's for sure.
Someone's got to stop him, right? Like, no, Mr. Sundown Town here cannot keep winning every single game.
I don't know. You know what they say, grit and hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work. And when you look at his team, all I see is a bunch of gritty, hard workers.
His team just out-executes the other team.
All of them date my daughter.
Exactly.
At the same time.
Yeah, Cleo is 3-4, the sole 3-4 team in the league, and that's something I want to cover a little bit is how top heavy the league is this year. But still, Cleo's going to fall to 3-4 here, and I think something that like now we have 7 weeks to go and judge off of. Cleo's team is very much proven to be pretty top heavy, and I genuinely think this is going to limit any chance of making a real playoff push. And I could be very wrong because it's fantasy, and that's like trends can be broken all the time. But Cleo, it doesn't really seem like Cleo can afford to lose games like this. Now I know that's completely out of her control, but scoring big like this is going to be reliant on three players on her roster. And if she can't go and win these games, then she's going to be basically playing 50-50 ball by scoring 100, 110 each week. And I think the road to the playoffs might be treacherous for the rest of the season. All right, Jackson, do you want to take this next one? I want to hear.
We can skip this one. Honestly, I feel like there's not really a need to do this one.
No, we got to cover this one.
So this game kind of wanted to make me gouge my eyeballs out.
Oh, it was horrible.
It also made me want to gouge my eyes out.
You know that Packers-Browns game from earlier in the year where the final score was like 13-10 and both teams played like absolute piss? That was this game.
I was thinking we could compare it to University of Iowa versus South Dakota State University in 2023.
No, it was not that bad.
Wasn't that bad?
Anyways, with our Theo Whitehead GM lowlight of the week, all AK needed to do was start a kicker, and he would have won this game.
Specifically, the backup kicker to the one that he had. Jake Moody over Cairo Santos would have won him the game.
Yeah, also the kicker he played last week.
Yeah. But yeah, that's just horribly painful, especially that he noticed it like halfway through the Bears game.
I noticed it.
Yeah. Mitch, you got lucky, but sometimes you'd rather be lucky than good.
I agree.
So Mitch is 4-3 now. AK drops to 2-5, and honestly, we'll cover AK a little later in his preview. But Mitch sitting at 4-3 is maybe his best case scenario. I mean, this is right where he needs to be with how he scored. But unfortunately for Mitch, I have it not jotted down here that he has probably the worst second half schedule that you can ask for. Starting this week, he has Henry, who is competitive and can score high. But then he has 7-0 Nagel, and then he has Jackson, and then he has Andreas, Cam, Spencer, and then ends the year with Jackson. And so over the course of 5 weeks, he's going to play the 4 highest scorers in the league.
I'm not going to say anything about potential collusion here, but I think there might be investigations into the league after this year with just how the schedule is looking, because there's no way that this happens on accident.
Mitch, it's written in the bylaws that the schedule has to be released a week before the draft so that no schedule collusion can happen.
Well, I didn't read that part. And my lawyers didn't either.
That's exactly what happened. So it's that way so no one can like look at their bye weeks and figure that out. But yeah, no, you just got hosed, man.
This tough stretch of schedule for Mitch will definitely determine if this year's team is going to be like his 2022 team or like the rest of the teams that he's drafted.
I feel like it would be the most Mitchell thing ever for him to finish like 5-9.
Pretty much. I think this is the first time I've been positive since 2022.
Yes. I think 2023? You had a pretty decent team that year, but I think you got stuck going 6-8, and there was like 4 or 5 6-8 teams that year, so you just got pumped down to the bottom.
Also replaced my entire team except Josh Allen.
What?
Yeah, that year if you look at every week, I had like 2 new injuries.
Yeah, I feel like everyone's had a walking IR team at some point. It's just tough. I don't check AK's bench is all I'm gonna say. His team is brutal to look at.
I did check his bench before I faced him. It was fun.
We're gonna get right on into our resident tank bowl for week 7, and that was Eddie versus Ryan, which might be the most random shootout in TGI fantasy history. Honestly, I don't know why this game scored so high. Eddie's now 6-2 against Ryan. I didn't realize that they had played so many times. Ryan's only been in the league since 2020, so that's like almost every year they've played twice now. But yeah. I mean, Ryan's team had a pulse for the first time in 6 weeks. It was, I think, the first time since week 1 that he scored over 100 points, which is something to say the least for a full PPR league. But it's difficult for Ryan to come out here and lose this game because Eddie's team, both these guys deserve this win, and Eddie managed to do it. They're both 2-5 now. But Eddie's team has been legitimately competitive every week, and high scoring performances have been difficult for him to come by. He's kind of in the same situation that Andreas is in, but give or take about 10 points less. Eddie keeps putting in 100 to 110 performances, and he just can't seem to get out these wins, and he's playing a lot of people close, but he does get Kittle and Lamar back. I think he had Kittle back last week technically, but he put up a goose egg, so we're just gonna scratch that. But yeah, Eddie's team actually looks pretty solid, and I would be pretty nervous playing him down the stretch, especially when his team is gonna get fully healthy here. But yeah, this was a pretty fun game to track all the way down to the wire and Monday night because Ryan had Jamison Williams who ran cardio and had one total target as his entire stat line.
He's a blocker. He likes blocking.
He's a decoy.
Yeah, we'll see. His PFF grade will probably be like a 95, despite his entire stat line being one total target, no receptions, no yards. That's a great joke. The internet will look favorably upon that joke.
I wasn't listening.
Well, next up, we had Landon's 123-point win over Logan, who scored 108. Unfortunately for Logan, this season has not been it for him. He now falls to 1-6 and is solidly in last place in the league.
Or Logan.
Yeah, well, so no, not poor Logan. He's had probably one of the worst bad beats this season. But here's what I'm going to say. He was a contender for the Theo Whitehead GM Lowlight of the Week award this week because he had the Bills defense on bye, and I even tagged him in the chat like Sunday morning and said, "Oh, he doesn't feel like playing defense today." He kept the Bills defense on his roster, which is I think it's ranked like 22nd in the league, by the way. So it like in a 14-person league, there's literally 7 other defenses available that are better. I'm not even going to go on that rant, but there were 4 defensive units sitting in free agency that would have won them this game, and he refused to pick them up. Yeah, that includes the Panthers defense, which I think is like 13th in the league. Again, better than the Bills have been all season. This was a self-inflicted loss at a very, very avoidable loss. I don't understand it, but that's my little rant. Logan, you're not off the hook from that Theo Whitehead award. You were a finalist this week.
On the opposite side of that matchup, we have Landon. There isn't a whole lot to say about it. He moves to 5-2 and is solidly in the playoff picture for this year, but he's gonna need to find some consistency moving forward if he wants to maintain his spot in the rankings.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely been the beneficiary of winning some of those like toss-up games that we've been talking about where like Eddie has fallen short or Andreas have fallen short. But yeah, he's 5-2. He's firmly in the playoff picture, but his team just I don't know if we can call him like a true championship contender because we have yet to see him string even 3 weeks together in a row that look good. It's usually like a very good week, a decent week, and like a week that he somehow wins. So consistently is definitely going to be the key. He's going to need to find some depth in his bench or something.
Some big injuries are Marion Hampton and Puka. Without those two, he's definitely missing some star power at his skill position. So hopefully they can return soon and give him the boost he needs to keep his playoff spot.
Yeah, his IR slots are full at this point, and it could be tough. Puka, I think, might be out another 2 weeks. They said. I'm not really sure. I know he's week to week, but there's no optimism that he'll play soon.
He should be. He's estimated to come back around November 1st.
So after their bye week this week. So our last game of the week was Cam and Jackson. Cam put up 133 points, continues to just turn out points, except for his week against Aros where he had half his team on bye. I mean, Cam had multiple players underperform in this matchup, Jackson, and I know you were on the receiving end of this. Like Cam's team just puts out points, and it's way up there with producing points in all time. He's headed for the record books right now. So Cam beating you, Jackson, puts him at 2-0 in the standings for Die
Series.
or however it's
Die Series.
Sure, you say that. I don't speak German. Yeah, but between you, Mitch, AK Cam, all the German speakers, that makes Cam and Mitch the only ones eligible to win it now because Mitch beat AK, and AK's 1-2. He's played all 3 of you guys, and Mitch is 1-0.
Mitch hat gegen AK gewinnt.
Yeah, something like that. So no matter if Mitch loses to you, Jackson, now when they play, that's going to be for the championship. Because if Cam loses, then Mitch goes either 3-0 or 2-1. So that's kind of exciting. I don't think either of them have won it before. I actually could be very wrong now that I think about it.
We need like a sub prize for winning these series, like a pack of like German beer or something, or like a Stein.
That's on y'all. I'm not in this. But yeah, Jackson, I want to kind of like gauge your thoughts on this real quick. Is my observations that your team's actually like somewhat competitive from week to week, but I feel like your players don't have any identity. Like, it's not like you're losing games big, but it doesn't seem like you have like much star talent outside of Cam Scatabo and Kenneth Walker whenever the fuck he feels like playing. But yeah.
Yeah, even though I lost, I'm honestly still pretty satisfied with the performance I put up. Jordan Addison is quietly putting up a productive season after coming back from his suspension, so happy to have him in my wide receiver room when I have literally no one else after that Mike Evans injury. Drake May is also quietly having a top 5 scoring quarterback season so far, so I'm very happy.
May's your quarterback?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he currently sits at fifth in QB scoring, so his ascension is big for me as I was able to take him late. But it's pretty much Drake May, Cam Scadaboo, and then occasionally Jordan Addison carrying my team forward, and I have to rely on them to score 20 or 30 points to win. But moving forward, I'm definitely going to need to find some more depth and pray to God that I start the right Seahawks running back each week.
Oh yeah, good luck. Sharp gets all the goal line carries, but he only gets like a third of the total carries. It's a mess there, and it sounds like they're trying to shop for another running back here soon. Yeah, so that covers our week 7 review. Getting into our next games for week 8. This will be our week 8 preview. That normally we would get out a text with some stats, but we're gonna elaborate just a bit more on some of these games. We're gonna start in with the game of the week, and Jackson, I'm gonna let you take this one.
Yeah, so our game of the week for week 8 is Cam sitting at 6-1 versus Landon sitting at 5-2. Landon currently leads the series sitting at 2-0 versus Cam. Cam's team's consistently finding ways to score big points each week, and Landon feels a lot more like he's hit or miss. So Landon will need to find some answers to beat Cam's consistent scoring if he wants to beat him this week. And is Cam our kind of mid-season pick for championship contender?
Oh,
Yeah, so okay. I think he is. I know he's behind Nagel and Nagel 7-0, but Ham's putting out points like no one's business. He had that one bye week that's holding him down, or not bye week, but the alleged horror week that he had against Aros, and it's his only loss of the year. But other than that, he's been, I think, in every single week he's been in the top 4 scorers. Yeah, the only way he doesn't win this championship is if he like goes up against the top scorer of the week in the playoffs. Genuinely is how I think this is going to go. He's not really suffering with injuries, but like when he is, he's able to. He's sitting on 2 quarterbacks right now that are both capable. So I think Cam is probably my pick.
I feel like if we're talking just stats, Cam is obviously the favorite. But we do have to consider that fantasy football is often dictated kind of by just the whims and energy of the universe around us. And it really does seem like the winds and the energy around us of the universe are trending towards having the Dixiecrats take the election here. So I've just got to give it to Ryan still. In my head, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Cam took it, but also I feel like we got to consider that the fact that there's like a invisible hand guiding certain people in this league.
Regardless of any invisible hands guiding people or the strings of fate, Cam only has 2 weeks on the year where he scored less than 130 points, and only 1 week where he scored over 100, being his only loss of the season. So Cam continues to find ways to put up big scoring performances. So if you want to beat Cam, you're gonna have to find a way to put up 140 plus points.
Yeah, and granted that's proven to be anyone can do that any week, but you got to match up against him first. Mitch, low key, do you want to take this next one?
Yeah, let me open up the thing. Okay, so it's the MacGuffin game because Nagel has held the MacGuffin for what seems like decades. So, as we've talked about earlier, Nagel is still undefeated, astoundingly, and AK is not, and also has the penchant to just entirely forget. Oh, well, I guess an anonymous hyena is telling me that Nagel has held the MacGuffin for 6 weeks, and Cleo holds the record for the longest, which is 9 weeks. So he's actually getting up there. I mean, if he beats AK and then just kind of continues this streak, which there's a chance he doesn't beat AK. In fact, he's considered the underdog in this situation. But if he does beat AK, then he's knocking on the door of that record in his first season, which is honestly a really, really impressive feat to pull off. But it's even more impressive when you consider he's playing the white hooded cross burning team. We do have to talk about that AK is really, really good, mostly when playing against teams who hold the MacGuffin. He's 8-2 when he's the challenger.
Oh yeah, the MacGuffin might be AK's favorite thing on the planet. Honestly, you were talking about invisible hands and like Taoism or something about how the energy moves all of us in the Force and stuff. I wouldn't be shocked if AK's Bandits team of whoever the hell and who's he what's it pulls out 150 points for this.
Bo Nix? Really?
Oh yeah, he picked up Bo Nix off waivers, who's playing the Dallas Cowboys defense.
Jesus.
AK is a believer
Bo Nix
confirmed.
might go for 40 points against the Cowboys defense. But yeah, so Mitch, you actually covered that Nagel is actually the projected underdog. It's only by like a point and a half, but that's really surprising from ESPN. And I actually plugged the roster in just now into a tool I have that compares across all like the four main leagues. So like NFL.com, Yahoo, ESPN, and Sleeper. And Nagel's the underdog in all four of them, and they all have their own different projections. He's within 2 points on NFL.com and ESPN, but it's kind of shocking to me with I guess the nature like a 7-0 team playing a 2-5 team almost never like neither of them are like crazy hampered by any injuries or bye weeks. That Nagel's the underdog going into this matchup, and I just respectfully have to disagree with the experts on this one. I don't see it.
I did just check, and it has evened out to exactly 50-50. And honestly, I think that's a big boon for AK because, again, when you look at Nagel's team, he's got a bunch of scrappy hard workers, and you don't want to give them locker room material.
Don't put food in their lunch pail.
Yeah, exactly. I think it evening out to 50-50, it's hitting towards AK coming and winning this one to me.
Do we think Alec Pierce or questionable Ricky Pearsall, who hasn't played all year, is going to be the X factor for Nagel?
I mean, provided Ricky Pearsall doesn't get shot again, he is like really good on paper. So there is that.
Yeah, he actually did play the first 4 weeks. I just kind of wanted to josh around.
If he does come back, he will be the 49ers wide receiver one by multiple miles, considering that the only people beneath him on the depth chart are Kendrick Bourne and
Warren Jennings.
Sky Moore.
Sky Moore. Don't talk to me about Sky Moore.
I would just like to point out a couple of other interesting things about AK's team. First of all, Xavier Worthy is the only player in the entire roster of everyone that I can see. So I'm assuming every player who is off center in his portrait. He's leaning really heavily to one side in kind of a suggestive manner. I don't know how that.
Oh, yeah, you're
I
right.
don't know how that's necessarily going to affect things, but I mean, this definitely could play a factor. Additionally, this motherfucker has 3 Tennessee Titans on his team.
Oh,
I mean, 2 of them aren't playing.
yeah, that's true poverty. That's poverty right there. You know, I'm looking at Xavier Worthy's profile pic a little more now, and the only thing going through my head is, when you go to the doctor when you're like 12 and they tell you that like one leg is like 6 millimeters longer than the other. It doesn't actually do anything, but it's just like genuinely, I think it's just so they can fuck
they
with
do
you for
that
the
to
rest
you?
of your life. Yeah, except it was like 3 millimeters. But legitimately, Xavier Worthy's photo looks like he's like half a foot taller on one side than the other. The next up on our list of games, going down right after the MacGuffin game, is the oldest rivalry in TGI fantasy. This is Andreas and I meeting for the 18th time in 8 years. We're both entering 4-3. I have the lead of the series, 9-8. That's very crucial. I don't like losing the lead of this series. But if we're talking about recency, Andreas has actually won 4 of the last 5. Granted, I think the last time that we didn't split in the regular season was, I think, 2 years ago. And before that, it was 2 years ahead of that. And then 2 years before that as well. So this is being suggested, going by the trends, that we're going to split once again, go 1-1. That's all just a ramble. But I have not won the first matchup of us playing since 2020. And that's a stat that I realized literally like earlier today when I was just kind of like doing some delving as one does. Yeah, something about my first time playing Andreas of each year, like I have not won it for the last 4 years. And going by the current trends of what the game and the projections say, it's going to look like that again. I have 2 crucial players on bye. I have JSN and the Seahawks defense that are out. But so Andreas and I, there's 3 people in the league that have scored 100 or more points in every single game this year, and that's Nagel. But that it's me and Andreas. So barring anything like going haywire, this is probably going to be a not necessarily high scoring affair, but it's going to be competitive through and through. Neither of us have dropped a game below 100, and with that, I mean, we're both sitting at 4-3. We are I think the 4 and the, are we the 4 and the 5 or the 4 and the 6 in the current
You're the 5 and the 6. You guys are
Oh yeah,
currently
yeah.
the last 2 teams playoff as Landon sits just above you at 5 and 2.
Is this the largest the game with the largest playoff implications to this point in the season? I know we've seen some pretty implicating games, but I want to ask more of you guys. I think so, but I want to hear your thoughts on it. That I think not only this game, but the fact that we played twice and we're both wild card contenders at the moment. I think this could be a pretty huge game to not only determine how our seasons go, but the owners that are directly above and below us.
I would say so. I mean, just looking at the fact that you guys are currently sitting at the 5 and 6 seed respectively, the winner of this game will move to 5 and 3, and the loser will drop to 500 at 4 and 4. If Mitch is able to win this week, which granted is a big if, he will move to 5 and 3 and jump the loser of this game for taking their playoff spot. So winning this one is definitely important.
Mitch isn't winning this week.
Probably not. I gotta say, I don't really know about playoff implications, but this is one of the only games where I hope both teams lose, which I think means that there are pretty heavy playoff implications for it.
We haven't seen a tie in league history yet. We've come close. I think we've had a .02 difference before, but yeah, I mean that'd be pretty crazy.
It's pretty difficult when you go out to the 100th decimal.
I'm excited for this matchup. I mean, I know that's just me personally, but 18 times that we're playing, guaranteed 19, maybe even 20 if we both make the playoffs or if we both miss. I'm excited. This is one of those I circle each and every year.
This is a big game for Spencer. As everyone knows, Spencer has some big expectations for this season. Coming off that blockbuster trade last year with yours truly, Spencer's really looking to make a run this year. The clock's ticking, so this game, if he's able to win this game, that will be a big boost to his playoff chances.
I forgot about that.
No one wants to talk about the blockbuster trade last year. They want to talk about the one this year with Kamani Vidal and the Bears defense.
Quietly, the best trade of this year.
I'm not gonna lie, this is definitely the most strategic trade I have ever made, and it's so dumb.
All right, now we can move on.
Hey, pull your shit together. Bro, Edward, come on. You can't keep doing this.
Mitch, do you have the tab pulled
Yeah,
up?
I am. It's fucking embarrassing. This cannot keep happening. How do you lose? How do you lose every year? I don't understand it.
How do you not understand it? Outside of 2022 and this year, that's been you.
Yeah, but I'm always bad. Eddie knows ball.
Yeah, so we have this game titled as Cleo's annual desecration of Eddie. I mean, Cleo going in this year 3-4, Eddie's 2-5, but Cleo is 8-1 against Eddie, and actually until I think it was 2 years, like Cleo was 6-0 before Eddie got a win, which is crazy considering some of the teams that Eddie has had. And funny enough, so if we're not counting the 2019 season, which was different scoring, different roster management, scores were higher. So we're going from 2020 onwards. Eddie's highest score against Cleo was 105 points. And that was his win, actually, funny enough. He's only scored over 100 points one other time, and it was like 101.62. I'm pretty sure that's actually correct. But yeah, Eddie, something about playing Cleo gives his team the nerves. But ESPN currently has Cleo, the only 3-4 team, has a 21% chance to make the playoffs. Eddie is the highest other team below Cleo at 14%. So this is one of those games where Eddie's probably out of the playoff race if he loses this matchup, considering that I think every team that makes the playoffs is going to be 8-6. Sitting with 2 losses is you're going to have to tie break in. But as we talked a little earlier, Eddie's team has like fully come into their own. I think he's getting Lamar Jackson back. He's getting George Kittle back. He has the second highest projection this week behind Cam, and it's only like a point and a half behind Cam. But then the gap from Eddie to the next person is like 10 points. So I genuinely think Eddie's team could be a threat going down the stretch. Maybe not a like true playoff contender, but he needs to start this week. And I guess one question that I have for you guys is we just talked about playoff implications in the last matchup, and maybe not necessarily playoff implications in this matchup, but like this is a very defining matchup for Cleo sitting at 3-4. What do you think this result, win or lose, is going to mean for Cleo's season? Because losing is going to put Cleo likely in a huge hole for the playoffs. But if Cleo wins, Cleo might be in the playoff, like the preliminary playoffs next week, just depending on how things go. So I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are.
Yeah, I think this is the make or break point for her playoff chances. As we kind of highlighted earlier, with Spencer and Andreas sitting at 4-3, going to be the last teams in and the first ones out. Cleo is behind a game for the playoffs to Mitch. Mitch is sitting at 4-3, currently the 7 seed. Only one team can win between Spencer and Andreas, so the loser will drop to 4-4. And if Cleo can win this week and match at 4-4, she should be sitting right at the 7 seed. Make a break for the playoffs.
I agree with all of that. I will say though, just in terms of like team quality, I feel like it says almost nothing about Cleo's ability to actually have success in the playoffs because, as we've mentioned, Eddie can't beat Cleo ever except one time, and that's when Cleo shat the bed. So Cleo being able to beat Eddie is basically like the Browns being able to beat like a high school team. Like it doesn't really mean anything.
So you're saying Cleo's season's done if Cleo loses to Eddie because of like if Cleo loses to Eddie, then it's just
Yes,
Armageddon.
basically, like Cleo should like leave the league at that point. Cleo don't actually do that. That would be sad if you even listen to this
It's a
far into the
bold
podcast.
move. You trying to tell other people to leave the league when you yourself have posted some of the worst seasons I've ever seen.
Well, we haven't added relegation yet, so I'm still here. I still pay my shit.
I genuinely think you would lose to a ChatGPT team.
That's probably true.
No, ChatGPT is outdated by like a year and a half. I think you'd be fine.
Next up, we have the Ginger Battle between Ryan and Aorus. Both have flipped records. Ryan sits at 2-5, and Aorus sits at 5-2. However, let it be known that Aorus did start out 5-0, so he's dropped 2 straight, and he's looking to buck that trend and get another win this week. Aorus does lead this series 3-2. They have never played twice in the same season, despite sharing 3 playoff appearances together. So
Yeah, that's a really interesting fact to me. Actually, that funny enough, I got double checked just to make sure. They've only played 5 times in 5 years. This is their 6th year competing together. I don't understand how they haven't run into each other in the playoffs. I don't think anyone else has only played each other exactly one time, outside of like the 3 newest people who haven't had like the opportunity to. Even Mitch has played everyone at least more than once. So.
Oh,
Yeah, that's kind of more of a funny stat. This is just, I guess, disregard Cam. This is the ginger battle for the week. But I have 2 discussion points here that I kind of want to talk about. And that's, so we know Garrett Wilson went down 2 weeks ago against me. He played through part of the game, and then he was out this week, likely out 2 more weeks. But that and 2 straight losses for A-Russ, despite the hot start, the 5-0 start. Is this a sign for like A-Russ to be worried, or do we think this is just another flash in the pan? Like, is this something that's going to pass, or is Garrett Wilson so integral to his team that like it's proving that without that star power, A-Russ isn't going to be able to capitalize?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, just looking at the rest of his team, he's still got plenty of star power in his skill positions, and while some of it may be a bit more boom or bust, I think that ARS can continue his early season dominance all the way to the playoffs.
Mitch, you got anything to add?
not really. That's pretty much what I was gonna say. His
Yeah.
team's still good without him.
Yeah, so that leads me to my second discussion point, which is a little on a like a less serious note, but I feel like needs to be talked about. Is so Ryan famously has never missed the playoffs. He has a 100% rate of making the playoffs through 5 years. He's sitting here at 2-5. Is it finally time that we can say that this playoff history has come to an end? Are we seeing the end of an era? He's the only person to make it 5 years in a row, only person to ever make it every single year. Has that finally
I
come
don't
to
know,
an end?
but all I do know is that only 3 things are sure in life: death, taxes, and seeing Ryan's team in the playoffs. So if anyone can make it from 2-5, it's Ryan.
Yeah, as I was saying earlier, I mean, the universe trends in specific directions a lot of the time when it comes to fantasy football. One of those ways is that this bastard always somehow makes it in there. So I'm praying to the Lord above that he doesn't, but just like nothing against Ryan. I just, sometimes want to see some mix-ups. And if one of those is me, that'd be pretty great. But even though he's 2-5, I feel like he's still somehow gonna get in there. Maybe there's like some like technicality in the rule book that'll put him there. I'm not sure. Like maybe he like has a dog in his team.
Yeah, I'm double checking right now. Ryan has, I guess, once. He's only ever once had a losing record in week 7, but he's never had a losing record going into week 8, which he's guaranteed to have this year. He's going to be 3-5 at best. And that year that he was 3-4, so he went 3-4 into 4-4 in his first season. And then, funny enough, he won out the rest of the year and took the top seed going into the playoffs. But that was back when we had 8 teams in the playoffs, so it's even more difficult this year. I think think it'll be nice to finally see another team in the playoffs. It's kind of been locking out a team, but like this is history we're talking about. So I don't know. I figured that needed to be discussed.
Heritage, not hate, right?
Yeah.
Moving on from that, we have the tank bowl for this week, which just so happens to include myself, sitting at 2-5 as I go up against Logan, the only person with a record worse than me, sitting at 1-6. Logan does lead this series 4-2, so I'm hoping I can get a win this week. Please, dear God, if I don't win this week, I don't think I deserve to call myself a fantasy football player. When you look at the matchup, normally I would be shitting my pants going up against Jared Goff, Kyron Williams, James Conner, Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr. But lucky for me, all of them are either injured or on bye week. Logan has one of the worst team lineups for a week I have seen, considering that four of
Holy
his
shit,
players are
that
on bye
sucks.
week this week. His other QB is also on bye week and also injured, and his other running back that he drafted
Yeah.
is on IR and also on a bye week. So ESPN currently gives me a 84% chance to win, and if that doesn't hit, I will probably kill myself.
Wouldn't blame you.
Yeah, so this is definitely the highest percentage to win since yourself playing the entire bye week against
It was Henry back in 23. I had a team
158 to
yeah.
nothing.
I had a team consisting of almost entirely Dolphins, Chiefs, and Eagles players, and they just so all happened to have a bye week at the same time. So I honestly think I didn't even start a single
Yeah.
player. I just I opened the app, I sat down in
Yeah.
class and opened the app and just saw a sea of red, and I said, well, I'm not even gonna try. I'm just gonna close the app and not open it again until next week.
Yeah, you're still the only person to put up 0 points in a week with that week. But yeah, this is so for anyone that wasn't like actively watching the chat during the draft, Henry, so Logan, I think he might have made his first 2 picks, but like the rest at least was all auto pick. And Henry in like round 7 was the first to notice that Logan's team had like 4 or 5 players on bye, and he called up Logan's Bimageddon week 8. So we actually, funny enough, Jackson, Mitch, and I were all like in the same place drafting, and we were looking at this, and we were like, who's playing Logan in week 8? And it's Jackson, who's coming off his blockbuster trade championship season, and Jackson's just sitting there
I,
like, oh,
I
I get
was
a free
crying
win
tears
in
of
week
joy
8.
considering my circumstances and the draft capital I had to work
Yeah.
with. At the start of the season, this was one of the 3 games
Yeah.
that I actually predicted myself to win, that being, or the other 2 being the games against Mitch. So I am happy to. There's no free handouts in life, but this is as close to one as you can get. So I'm hoping that 84% chance is more like a 99% chance, and I can just cash my unemployment
Yeah.
check this week and get another win.
Yeah, so Logan, if Logan falls to 1-7, I spent 45 minutes on the playoff machine today, just going through and clicking as many like combinations of games as I could pick. If Logan falls to 1-7, he cannot control his own destiny into the playoffs. And depending on how this week goes, he's not going to be eliminated, but his best route is going to be to somehow tie break in like a 6-person tie break into the final spot in the playoffs, just because of how empty the middle of the pack is. You're either in the top or the bottom. And I had a question written down that was, should Logan even try this week? But then I had a better question. This is something I like genuinely want to run you guys by, as not like for Logan, but like a hypothetical. If you're sitting at 1-6 and you're looking down the barrel of 1-7, like if Logan does nothing, he's 1-7, almost guaranteed. Is it more important for you to try and make big time moves, trade away your players are on bye week, but they still have value? Is it more important to make some big time moves to try and avoid being 1-7 to be 2-6? Maybe run the table, make the playoffs, but more importantly to not set yourself up for failure. Is it more important to do that in an attempt to turn your season around, or is it more important to take the loss, go 1-7, almost guarantee that you're not going to make the playoffs, and salvage your season from there? Because Logan's team isn't bad, but if he just takes this loss, he's basically admitting that there's nothing left to his season other than to not place last. So I'm genuinely asking you guys what you would do in this situation.
I think After almost a guaranteed loss this week, I think he absolutely should go full fire sale. I mean, you're sitting at 1-7, and while you still have tons of legit star power on this roster, it's going to be nigh impossible to make the playoffs. So, just going off the trade you and I made last year, I think this season is basically a dead season for Logan. And now that we can trade for draft picks, the NFL trade deadline is in just over a week. So, trying to do some last minute trades to get some draft capital to load it for next year, I absolutely think that should be the path that Logan takes.
I wasn't even thinking about draft capital. I was just thinking about blowing it all up, trying to see what you can get from others with your value players. But yeah, that's a huge point. Now that I think about it, is you have three routes you can go, and that's player for player. But you can also trade your bye week players and draft capital for next year to see if you can throw together a super team to somehow win out. But you can also trade off. Like Logan has some good pieces, and he can trade them off for future draft capital and set himself up for next year, where he could find himself not like now that we know the meta this year, from what we've seen is and isn't working, and we're going to talk about that a little bit with Henry here. He could set himself up for a championship season. He's already a league champion. He's already a league loser, so he knows what it is to be in both spots. But there's so many like Logan, like ironically for being 1-6, has so many options available to him because of the trade market.
Yeah, I mean, I'd take some of these players.
We know that, but
That wasn't the question, Mitch. You just want Jared
I
Goff.
just want Amon-Ra. I could take or leave
He has
Goof.
Amon-Ra
He
too.
does have incredibly. He has.
Mitch, you gotta trade for Goff and Amon-Ra. You can just run the
Yeah.
Lions now that their bye week is
That's
done. Except the loss this week, and just run the Lions the rest of the year. Mitch, you can pull off the greatest thing known to man.
All right, that's good to know. I gotta say though, I vehemently disagree. I feel like there's an element of honor and there's an element of like you gotta kind of play violins while the Titanic goes down. You know, like you can't just. I mean, you can, but where's the glory in just abandoning your team that you put all your time and effort into this whole season? I mean, you sat through that whole draft bored as shit watching like the good players disappear, especially Logan, who was stuck with the worst pick.
Logan didn't draft; he auto drafted.
Okay, well, how did he auto drafted this team? Damn. But like, how the fuck is he this bad?
I don't know if you saw his schedule comparison, but
Oh yeah,
Logan
I did see
genuinely
it.
has one of the worst schedules I've ever seen. Granted, that's not an out. It's not like his team should be like 4-3 or 5-2. It should probably be like maybe 3-4. But yeah, no, like Logan's been hosed this year, and I don't think there's like there is some cherries to pick from the tree, but there's just not a lot to like love about it. But also, Mitch, your mindset about going down with the ship is why you're 5-9 every year.
And I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm loving every minute of it, Jerry.
So our last matchup of the week is Mitch himself versus Henry. And Jackson, actually, while I'm rambling about this, can you actually like fact check for me real quick if this is the first time that Mitch has a better record than Henry while they're playing? Yeah, actually, no, I know that's not true because Henry 2022, Mitch definitely had a better. So Mitch is calling this the reverse kicker bowl. They're both not playing kickers because they're both ungodly in love with their kickers. Mitch is 4-3 and Henry's 2-5. I would say this is unfamiliar territory for Henry, but he had that stinker of a year in 2022. But Henry leads 3-1, and actually, I would guarantee you that loss was in 2022. Now that I think about it, Mitch though is a legitimate playoff contender for the first time since 2022 when Mitch went 8-6. Now, should Mitch have been in the playoffs versus he did get into the playoffs are very different discussions. However, Mitch is looking to make it for the first time since 2022, and he's right outside right now. He's seventh. He's in the top half, but he's the first team out. Henry has, I think, the second lowest chance to make the playoffs outside of Logan, who is below 1%. Henry has a 6% chance to make the playoffs. And for Henry, we're looking at 2 years ago, he was one game short of not only winning the championship, but having the most dominant season we've ever seen. And last year, he made it in the playoffs. It was solid. And now his team's not bad, but his team is. There's no way this team wins a championship, surely. I might eat my words when I say that because it's Henry, but there's not a lot to love here. And I think this 6% chance is very deserving. And I have 2 points of discussion that I actually want to talk about versus actually both of these owners. And the first one, I actually want to say on Henry and go out of order here is this is going to be based around Henry, but this was a talking point going into the year around the draft strategy is whether or not do you think Henry has been caught out this season by the shifting like management strategies that have been brought on by the league rule changes? Because we had three major rule changes going into this year, and that was dropping a running back spot for a flex spot, tight end premium, and the full PPR, all coming in at the same time. You could project a meta, but the meta is based on how the league works. There are some people that have gotten it right, and there are some people that have gotten it wrong. And Henry only ever had one bad season in like the last like scoring meta we had before we made any major changes. So do we think this is unfamiliar territory for him because he's a two-time champion, and like if we're talking about kings of the league, you got to put him up there. He's definitely on that Mount Rushmore. So do we think that he has been caught out by like a change of meta here, and do we think that he's going to be able to
I wouldn't
recover?
say that he's been caught off guard by the change. I think when I look at his team, I think the biggest thing that he's been suffering from is just some of the players he's drafted dealing with inconsistencies in their offensive production. I wouldn't say that the team he drafted is unfit for our current league scoring.
He's got a lot of rookie players that didn't play out here, or like younger players. I know he's sitting on Travion Henderson, who I think everyone and their mom would be forgiven for thinking that he was going to break out in one of the last two games, and he hasn't. And Ashton Genty, who had a big game 2 weeks ago, but outside of that, like he gets no receptions. Pretty much, he's a non-factor. He's also sitting on R.J. Harvey here.
Keon Coleman.
Yeah, Keon Coleman. Rome Odunze's actually been a nice surprise for him. I think he's got some really good value out of where he took him. Yeah, I know Henry's been struggling with injuries, but like we've seen Henry do more with less. It is something that I like. I just want to make a point out of. He's been someone who has been able to manipulate bye weeks probably better than anyone in the league. I mean, going 12-2, only losing to one person the entire year is a huge feat. I guess point would be that there are no Cowboys on his roster for probably the first time in any league in the history of ever for him. There are no Cowboys on his roster.
Would think that would beget him being better, but it doesn't.
Maybe God's cursing him?
Yeah, which, I mean, God hates the Cowboys, so, or God at least should. I mean, you'd think that God will punish anyone who drafts Cowboy players that consistently, but, I mean, he doesn't, because Henry wins all the time. And Henry's probably going to win this week, even though he doesn't have Cowboy players on his team. But, I mean, we shouldn't count out that kind of universal piece of, that little factor there that, I mean, he might be getting punished. And also, I mean, even though he's 3-1 against Mitch, he also is 0-1 against Mitch when Mitch has a better record than him. That had nothing to do with the point.
That is true. I did not consider that.
I mean, I guess to the point, though, it's not like I wouldn't, like, if we're projecting what the meta was going to be, which, I mean, I don't really know what the hell I'm talking about, but I'd assume it'd be more wide receivers, more tight ends, less running backs. It's not like he didn't follow that. He at least tried to ascertain it. His team just kind of faltered on him. So I would say he didn't get caught out by the changes. His team just kind of sucks. Except it also doesn't suck. He just keeps losing.
Okay, so we've done enough slandering of Henry. On the other side of the aisle, though, is Mitch, and I got a point of discussion here that something that we've seen for I think a few years now. And Mitch, you actually made a comment to me when we traded receivers this past week about how abrasive you are to trading. So Jackson, this is I guess a question for you directly, and maybe I want Mitch's secondary commentary down the line. Does Mitch's conservative management style limit his ability as a playoff threat? Like, I guess where I'm coming from is I think Mitch doesn't make enough big moves to like secure himself firmly in that upper echelon outside of like if he can draft well. Do you think that hinders him in a huge way, or do you think he could be completely fine?
I think it hinders him. I mean, Mitch was making comments earlier, making the analogy to the Titanic about how he and his team is very much a draft and develop, and he'll go down with this ship. And if his team is by some ungodly miracle good, he'll ride those waves to the playoffs.
Yeah. Okay. So, Mitch, I guess I have a follow-up question for you. Do you genuinely think that your team can win a championship?
I've got a couple of justifications for this. First of all, I mean, really, like, fantasy football kind of is just random, like 70% of the time.
It's strategy. I tell you, it's strategy.
You've also told me it's random. So, like, what I draft a team, and then in my mind, that is the team I'm thinking about in terms of its playoff potential. And I get kind of an emotional attachment to some of these players every year. So I don't want to give them up because if they're playing badly, then like my capital has gone down and now like I'm not getting anything out of it, which is obviously not actually true, but that's the way it ends up thinking in the irrational part of my brain. And B, Alexander Stephen Russell in my first year decided to exploit a vulnerable person and caused psychological damage to me with the worst trade in the history of the entire league that actually managed to doom both of us at the end of it for when I traded what was it? Alvin Kamara for an injured Russell Wilson and someone else who was also injured.
I don't remember. I just know that I think it was a 4-player
Alvin
trade,
Kamara is who I
and Russell
traded, and he
Wilson
was
and
the
Alvin
best
Kamara were
player
a
on my
part of it.
team. He was my first round pick and the only production I
Yeah,
had.
your
And I
team was also
traded for
bad
yes, and
though. So like the
it
best
managed
player
to
on your
get
team doesn't
worse.
mean. And Russell Wilson, I think, single-handedly
Yeah,
won you your
that's what I
game
mean.
against
Is that
Aros in last place.
my first experience ever with trading in a fantasy football league was to not only doom me into the last place game, but the trade itself then doomed the player that traded the scam to me. So every time I'm trading, that's what I'm thinking about. So it just makes it so I'm very, very conservative when trading because I'm really just like, I don't even want to let go of Marvin Mims, dude. Like, I know he's bad, but I mean, look at him. Like, he's kind of cute. He's got that nice smile. His name is Marvin. Like, that's awesome. And he's on the Broncos, and they're fun. They're owned by Lewis Hamilton. So, like, I mean, there's a lot of other factors going into it that, yeah, I want to go down with the ship with the team I have. I want the team to do better than it usually actually does. And I have post-traumatic stress disorder caused by an evil person that convinced me that a trade was good because he lived with me, and I couldn't get away from it. So
I will say the single-handedly worst trade is actually my trade with Henry from like 3 years ago. I don't even remember who I traded for. All I know is that I traded him Javonte Williams and Cortland Sutton, and I think Cortland Sutton was cut from his team by week 5, and
that's pretty
Javonte
brutal.
Williams was
I'm
on
just thinking,
IR by
like,
week 4.
because not only did the trade help Alex and ruin my entire season more than it had already been ruined, it then also ruined Alex's season. Like, so not only was the trade actively a scam for one of the people involved, it then wrapped back around and like made someone eat 24 pancakes in one sitting.
Okay, Mitch, we're gonna have you go from last to first. I know you're doing this off the top of your head. Just that I think that's gonna be pretty funny. Um, give a little like bit of justification, just like somewhat of a reason. And Jackson or I may feel the need to ask like one question.
All right, should I get started?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I mean, really, like even in a joking manner, Logan's team just sucks ass. I can't. I don't understand how a team with this many good players could be this bad, but it just keeps losing. So I mean, I just gotta kind of put it last. The next one, it's got to be Henry. Not only is his team bad, but he hasn't changed his team name in like 7 years. And that's just embarrassing with everyone else changing their team name every single year. I mean, like, come on, man. I mean, there's so many, like, funny jokes you could make out of that team name. The next one, we'll all go down to Dixieland over here, Cracker Barrel. I mean, he can't keep doing this. I don't care that his team is good. White people can't play ball. And then Spencer, because no one knows what his team name means except me, because we're the
I
only
know
ones
what it
with a
is.
mature appreciation for Danish art house cinema. Well, you also have a mature appreciation of Danish art house cinema.
Thank you, Mitchell.
So you're welcome. Andreas also hasn't. I don't even know what the fuck his team name means. Besides
know
that,
what his
I mean,
team name
obviously it
means?
means that he has two. He has two Philadelphia players, but it's dumb. Also, I hope he loses. I also hope Spencer loses. So
You hope
I'm
they
ranking
tie.
both of them about in the same spot.
Best we can do is tie. Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, both tie in game and tie in the power rankings. I'm just gonna put Ryan Nagel here again in 10th, in ninth, because I mean his team is pretty good, but all of them are voting for George Wallace in the 1964 presidential election, and voting for a spoiler is just an automatic loss. So I mean he's just dooming us to 4 more years of Gerald Ford, and that's pretty embarrassing. So eighth, I'm gonna put myself in eighth because I'm not an arrogant person. I don't think too highly of myself, and I know kind of where my team stands. So I think a 4-3 record is pretty good, but also I think it's a bit lucky. It's not a good team, and it's just going to keep getting worse with the amount of people that I have to face up next. I'm going to follow that up with whose team is this? Eddie, because he's guaranteed to lose to Cleo, and his team sucks. But also, he knows way more ball than me, so I feel like he knows something I don't, and he's gonna just figure it out, even if he might be just an insufferable Packers homer. I mean, there aren't enough Packers on his team for his team to be bad. So I just don't really know what's going on there, and I hope he figures it out. Kind of. I also hope he crashes and burns. But after that, what am I at? Sixth? I'm going to give it to Landon just because he's got the Lions defense, which is a blessing and a curse. They're incredible at the sport. They're the best part of watching any football team, but also they're on bye. So, I mean, he's just going to lose. I mean, Dak Prescott is on his team, and anyone with Dak Prescott on their team should be punished. But, I mean, it's still like a well done, well designed team that should keep winning. As Spencer and Jackson both said earlier, it's not really a team that's been able to string together a lot of wins, unlike kind of the upper echelon people. Number 5, I'm just going to give it to Ryan again, because it's I don't understand how this keeps fucking working. It should work.
You mean Ryan Nagel or Ryan Williams?
I mean Ryan Nagel, because why does this keep working? I don't understand it. It's
I'm really curious to
fucking
see who's
crazy.
left off, because there's at least 2 people left off this ranking.
You know what? Okay, put Cam in 15th, because his team name makes literally no sense anymore. Or ever, actually, seeing as how he never had Justin Tucker or Deshaun Watson on it.
Good point. No one said it.
Yeah, and yet he possibly has the worst team name, because not only is it tasteless, but the only way it would be good is if he had either of those players on it. Yet he doesn't. He could just hold one of them in the bench. He could put, I mean, he's an open IR spot. He could put Deshaun Watson in there all he wants, and yet he doesn't. He just leaves it open and names his team name something, slandering Caleb Williams, slandering George Pickens, who deserves it because he's on Dallas, slandering Bijan Robinson. I mean, he has Rashee Rice. Like, if he wanted to name his team after like some sort of kind of heinous current event, he has plenty of material, but he didn't. Number 4, I'm going to have to give it to Mr. Alex Russell, as much as I hate to admit it. Mostly because he beat me, and he's not supposed to do that, so I'm really worried any season where he actually does. It's also just a good team, even though it has a player from Miami on it. And then...
Top three.
Yeah, top 3. I'll give AK number 3 because, I mean, I beat him, and I want to make a larger, more impressive feat that I beat him if we ignore the point totals in the game.
I'm pretty sure Ryan Williams is going to be dropped from the rankings entirely.
No, Ryan Williams is second, because Ryan Williams is, I have full faith, is somehow going to figure out how to enter the goddamn playoffs again. Also, his team, like, should be good. Well, okay, the top 3 players of his team should be good. I don't really know what's happening on the bottom
Jackson
part,
Dart should be good.
Jackson Dart is good. Okay, and then in number 1, I gotta give it to Cleo. Just because she has Brock Purdy and she's sticking with him. And I really respect that, even though he just never has played this season, and even when he has, it hasn't been very good. I really want him to be good, and therefore, if I can't be good, I hope Cleo's good, even with Brock Purdy on IR. Also, Jahmyr Gibbs is good, and T. Higgins is good, and I wish she could play Daniel Jones and Brock Purdy at once. The fact that isn't allowed...
We used to be able to. We used to be super flex.
Well, I don't think we need a super flex. I just think we should have 2 QBs for Cleo when they're Daniel Jones and Brock Purdy.
With a 14-person league?
Yeah, when it's just those 2 players in combination with each other.
Cleo topping the power rankings is just not something I had on my books for today. I'm going to be honest. I figured it would honestly be anyone other than Cleo.
Well, she also has Chubb Hubbard, and that's a funny name. And TJ Hawkinson is from an Iowa State player, and when I liked Iowa State...
He's from Iowa.
Mitch, what did you say?
I forgot about that.
Leave that in too. Leave that in with the who is Travis Hunter comment. Jesus. I'm going to wrap this up. So that was all for the inaugural TGI Fantasy podcast. We thank Mitch for coming on as a guest commentary artist and for doing the power rankings. Putting Cleo at first was not on my big board for today. And Cam being out of the literal realm of possibility at 15th out of 14. Great stuff from Mitch. But yeah, so we're gonna look at doing this each week to cover the previous week and the future week, and we'll see about getting some future segments in here. We're going to keep a tally of the Theo Whitehead GM low light of the week. AK was the first winner. With Logan close on his heels, never forget. Thank you very much for tuning in, and here's to another week of TGI Fantasy Football.